colony drops named Operation British turned a few cities on Earth into parking lots, such as Sydney, and contributed to the ridiculously large number of total casualties for the 1 Year War. 5 billion deaths and damages on global environment. In comparison, the total amount of the Earth's current population in real life is 7.88 billion. That is almost 80% of the current population of this world. The Earth Federation didn't understand what they were facing. At this point, the Principality of Zeon was a technologically advanced fascistic country hell-bent on conquering Earth in order to secure its own independence. The thing about Zeon was that it was already independent after Zeon's death. But Daegwon needed to focus all that hatred into another target in order to keep himself secure in power. It is a common strategy employed by dictators everywhere to make sure that the country is focused on a larger enemy in which the extreme measures the dictators do are completely justified. Zeon occupied territories on Earth, including America and Ukraine. New York became the HQ of the Zeon Earth Attack Forces. After Garmer's death at the hands of the vengeful Char Aznable, Daegwon was overcome by grief and depression and handed all of his powers to his eldest son Gihren, effectively making him the new sovereign. At this point, the war has inflicted a high amount of casualties for Zeon, and some expresses concerns for peace and armistice. Not Gihren though. Being likened to Hitler by Daegwon is a magnificent politician and brilliant schemer with ambitions of grandeur. His goal is the total subjugation of the Earth Federation and total consolidation of Zeon society. Gihren and his faction continue to try and win the war. Giren's brand of Zeonism was the quote-unquote theory of spacenoid domination, in which spacenoids, being the ones living in the frontier, they had the innate right to rule over the rest of humanity. His thought has been the dominant platform for all military action in Zeon. His thought had the consequence of turning Zeon's policy violent, a cost that Daegwon didn't want to pay anymore. For example, Gihren greenlighted Project Apsalus, which aimed to create a mobile suit that is capable of destroying an entire base or city using its properties. Basically, a weapon of mass destruction in the form of a mobile suit. On the other hand, Gihren also aimed to purge Zeon society from his detractors. He had his secretary Cecilia Irene engineer Operation Valkyrie in order to gather all of his traitors. Moving back to the main topic, Daegwon wished for a negotiation of his own initiative opposite of General Revel, an Earth Federation hero and war leader, to end all hostilities. Gihren, however, murdered the two with a superweapon to stop them from negotiating peace. Giren's patricide was discovered by Caecilia, who promptly murdered him and took control of the entire Zeon military in a last stand at Abawaku, a space station where most of the Zeon Space Attack Force was located. Caecilia's faction then moved in to control Zeon and to fight the Federation in Abawaku, eventually losing the battle and then the 1 Year War. After the war ended, the Zabi family lost control of Zeon, with remnants of Zeon's military continuing as a holdout against the Federation in the form of Delos Fleet, Axis Zeon, and the Neo-Zeon movements. But in Zeon proper, the Federation took over and installed a pro-Federation government that is ostensibly more democratic. This returned Zeon into its Republic of Zeon days, and the country was led by Prime Minister Darcia Bakharov. Around 100 UC, the Earth Federation re-amalgamated Zeon back into the Federation, ending the independence of Zeon and closing the chapter of the Federation-Zeon ideological conflict. However, let's take a look at Zeon's power dynamics and political structure and identify key concepts in Zeon's politics. After Zeon Zumdaikun's death, it can be assumed that the Zeon party took over the government, as the only major political struggle was between the Zabi camp, led by Daegwon, versus the Ra camp, led by Jimba. The cult of personality around Zeon was so strong that the Daikun family was basically treated as royalty, with Artesia being treated as a princess and Casval or Char Aznable being treated more akin to a prince by the people of Zeon. And this was a significant factor in the Zabi's struggle for power. The Zabi systematically eroded the Ra family and sent the Daikun family on the run in order to rule undisputedly in Zeon. The entire power struggle between the three families is the main focus of the first half of Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, which focuses on the lives of Char, Scylla, and Amuro 10 years before the start of the story and leading up to it. In order to consolidate their power, the Zabis needed to do two things. First was to gain the adulation of the Zeon public and create a cult of personality. Second was to secure their positions of power. To carry out the first, the Zabis pinned the chaos of Daikun's death to the Ral family and the Federation authorities. Degwin and Gihren began a smear campaign against the Federation in hopes that this will create more enmity against the Federation and to unite the multicultural and multifaceted society of Zeon against the common enemy. In a book written by Kenneth Burke in 1939 called The Rhetorics of Hitler's Kampf, or Battle, Burke wrote that Germany's rapid push of economy, expansion, industry, and military prowess is credited to the strong resolve of the German people who, under the Nazi Party, united against a common enemy. Without an enemy with a mindless determination to destroy everything good and beautiful, all states struggle with the economic and social problems of unemployment and poverty. The idea of a common enemy is thus a symbol of the evil against which people must unite, and it distracts the people from politically inconvenient issues by relating all evils to common rhetorical enemies. The Federation, in this rhetoric, is the common enemy of the people of Zeon. They are seen as elitist and a distant power that puts them in space colonies and leaves them to rot in there. The Zabis fester the sense of resentment and derive power from the support they gain by taking steps to weaken the Federation, much like Hitler, who was able to continue amassing powers democratically by painting the Jews, the Soviet Union communists, France, and everyone else as the common enemy. Secondly, to have greater control and the mobilization of Zeon, they would have to secure the government. The Zabis did this by simply appointing members of the Zabi family in key positions within the government. Blatant nepotism, ladies and gentlemen, just like the country we live in. Gihren held key administrative positions within the Zeon party and the government. Sastro was the head of the political department before his death. Caecilia was a commander within the Munzo police. Dozel was a major and later general of the Munzo garrison and Zeon military, while Garma, upon his graduation, was placed as the head of Zeon's Earth Attack Force. Having the Zabis all sit in prominent positions allowed them to drain power from the Zeon party and into themselves, further strengthening the family's political authority. And Degwin, aware of the consequences of this scheme, even made himself quote-unquote sovereign, turning the country into a quasi-monarchic, autocratic dictatorship with him as a despot. This solidified the Zabi family as a core component in the Zeon national identity and its ideology, essentially becoming its royal family, replacing the Daikuns. And this royal treatment can be seen at how the last surviving Zabi, Minerva Lao Zabi, was furiously protected by the Axis Zeon remnants and treated as a queen, making Zabi legitimacy and power struggles being as important to the Zeon cause as Zeon Zoom Daikun's philosophy of nuking Earth with an asteroid. Over time, though, it became clear that Degwin doesn't actually control much of Zeon, as the One-Year War goes in ways that he did not intend it to be. As Zeon wins the battles at space, they continue to push forward into Earth in some sort of reckoning. By that time, Degwin's control over Zeon wanes over Gihren Zabi. Gihren was the mastermind behind the Zabi family's spectacular rise into power, while Degwin was indeed a diabolical schemer himself. Gihren did most of the politicking using Degwin mostly as a figure. In the peak of the One-Year War, Giren's authority and power outstrips Degwin, who was the sovereign, Giren's unbridled ambition and dangerous interpretation that is so famous in Japanese pop culture to the point where he even get his own game of the Zeon ideology took over the Principality of Zeon and led it into a path of destruction. Zeon by the peak of the One-Year War has already reached most of its war goals, but Gihren, in his unbridled megalomania, desires to subjugate the Earth Federation, feeling that as Spacenoids, they were racially superior than Earthnoids, and thus considers Zeon to be worthy of humanity's master. Giren's continued prosecution of the One-Year War overextends Zeon's resources, leading to Revel realizing that Zeon is in a weakened state, using the Zeon is exhausted speech. Revel's speech reinvigorates the Federation war effort, and with the help of the Federation's massive production lines and the Gundam, the Federation was able to go toe-on-toe against the Zeon once again. Giren's assassination of Degwin, Kaecilia's murder of Gihren, and Char's systematic butchering of the Zabi family from Garma, Dozel to Kaecilia contributes to Zeon's waning defeat. The infighting between the Zabi family disrupted Zeon's resolve and capability to fight the Federation in effective stances, leading to their massive defeat in Abawaku. After their defeat, the Principality of Zeon as a nation was forever decimated. The Zeon ideology was suppressed in a new incarnation of the Republic of Zeon, assuming from how Monahan Bakharov, Zeon's Minister of Defense, was a believer of Zeon and secretly funded the sleeves. But the Zeon ideology and the Zabi family ideals continue to live on in the remnants of Zeon, influencing the world of the Universal Century Gundam series, even after the main conflict between the Federation and Zeon ends. The Principality of Zeon reflects the worst and the best of human history. It arose from the rabble as a movement to right injustice and fight oppression, enshrined a hopeful future where humans evolve and dominate the stars, became an autocratic dictatorship under the rule of a corrupt family, perpetrating mass murder and war crimes of scales unimaginable in human history, and finally collapse under the weight of its selfish interest and greed. It embodied the optimistic and revolutionary outlook of the French Revolution, the grounded militarism of the Kingdom of Prussia, the extremism and fanatism of Imperial Japan, the racism of Nazi Germany, and the decadence and immorality of the Russian Empire. It also reflected the diversity of the United States. Zeon provided humanity with a hypothesis of a future society, where if the upper class continues to exploit the lower class, it will breed resentment that will be taken advantage of by selfish people in order to cling to power and as a result, spread utter violence, showing that technological advancements and breakthrough in life will not stop the cycle of revolution, violence, and war, as long as people do not address the issue of class. Anyways, thanks for joining my lengthy analysis on the politics of the Principality of Zeon. It's always refreshing to talk about politics that are not real life. Click like and subscribe if you want to see me analyze more politics in anime and manga. Even leave a comment to suggest what I should focus on next. See you on the next episode of the Based Indonesian Show. Bye bye, real people.